Welcome to Spring Greening, your virtual guide to waste management from home, an episode podcast brought to you from UW-Madison's Office of Sustainability. If you are listening to this, Earth Day 2020 is right around the corner, and you probably forgot because in quarantine, days feel the same. So while you're cooped up inside and preparing for spring cleaning, you might as well learn a couple new tricks to manage the waste you create daily. I'm Norma Behrend-Martinez, and for now, I would like to hand it off to Roden, my fellow OS intern, to tell us a little bit about why we should care about the quality of our waste streams.
Today, it's almost impossible not to generate waste just by living our daily lives. But does it really matter how much waste we produce and where our waste goes? The answer is yes. Most solid waste materials are non-biodegradable, meaning they build up in landfills where they stay for years. This not only creates atmospheric pollution, but it also contaminates groundwater after it rains due to percolocation. Over time, organic materials that have been deposited in the landfill break down in anaerobic conditions, releasing methane, a potent greenhouse gas, into the atmosphere. Items that are improperly disposed of often end up polluting Earth's ecosystems, which has detrimental impacts not only on the plants and animals, but also on the ecosystem services that we as humans derive from these areas. For every item that is not properly recycled or reused, a new one must be made, requiring more materials to be used than necessary. This contributes to resource depletion and habitat loss, which harms the ecosystems and communities where such resources are extracted. Why waste management is such a big problem is due to our attitudes about how we treat our products and the ideas we hold of the life cycle of that product. So how should we interact with waste?
The way we typically view the life cycle of a product is linear, meaning a product is created, used, and then thrown away. However, what if we created a circular life cycle by reducing, reusing, recycling, and repurposing the product? The 3 R's of waste management include reduce, reuse, and recycle, in order of importance, and are the most effective way to save money, energy, and natural resources. These principles can be incorporated into your life through small changes in your daily lifestyle. The most effective way to reduce waste is not to create it in the first place. Purchasing items with minimal packaging, reusing or repurposed items you already own, and swapping out your single-use products for reusable products are all simple ways that you can reduce your consumption and ecological footprint. Recycling what you can of your waste means materials that would otherwise be sent to landfills and incinerators are instead created into new products. So by reducing, reusing, and recycling, you are reducing the amount of waste that will be recycled or sent to the landfill and conserving raw materials used for product production. But what is considered recyclable and what is considered trash? Well, what is and isn't considered trash is something that depends on where you live. Thus, it's always important to find your recycling provider and look up the guidelines, as well as your city's landfill website. Some cities and institutions have separate recycling streams, such as UW-Madison, while others have a single-stream recycling system, such as the City of Madison. Some general tips are to use paper bags or translucent bags for your recycling stream. When recycling is being sorted, employees must be able to quickly identify if the items are recyclable or not, so clear bags are most effective. If you're using paper bags, make sure to empty the recyclables into the recycling bin. Fold cardboard boxes and do not crush cans. Recycling facilities sort materials based on shape, so a flattened can may be misidentified during the sorting process. In Madison, Wisconsin, Pelletieri suggests putting a lid in a can and then pinching it so the lid doesn't fall out. However, you'll have to check your local recycling guidelines to see if that they recommend this as well. You can recycle your plastic bags in some places by simply storing them in another plastic bag and put it in the recycling when it's about the size of a basketball, and remember to tie it up. Rinse your cans and bottles before recycling them. Remember, the principle is more clean than dirty. If you are unsure if an item is recyclable, check your local recycling guidelines, and if you still don't know, throw it in the trash. It's better to play it safe than risk contaminating the recycling stream. Recycling at UW-Madison is divided into 3 separate waste streams. First, you have your office paper, which includes white envelopes and white printer paper. You do not want to put any kind of glossy paper, neon paper, or notebook paper in this to preserve the cleanliness of that white office paper, which is so valuable in recycling streams. The second one is mixed paper. This is where you put your cardboard, magazines, newspapers, neon paper, paperboard, notebook paper, construction paper, and dairy/juice cartons. You don't want to put any kind of greasy cardboard, so no pizza boxes, and you don't want to put any photos, paper towels, waxy paper, or tissues, as this would contaminate the mixed paper stream. The last category of recycling is commingle. This is where the tin, glass, aluminum, and plastic materials go into. You want to have clean plastic bags that are gathered in the size of a basketball, and they are put into one plastic bag that's translucent and tied up. This way, plastic bags will be identified in the sorting process as a 3D material object and will be sorted into the plastics. Coffee cup lids are also recyclable in the commingle, but what you can't have is any straws, plastic utensils, cellophane, styrofoam, compostable plastics, chip bags, and liquid. The straws and the plastic utensils are too small to be recognized in the sorting process. Thus, they will end up going to the landfill. Chip bags and candy wrappers are a mix of plastic and metal and thus can't really separate the materials. Thus, they are ultimately called monstrous hybrids and must be thrown in the trash.
Electronics waste, commonly known as e-waste, is the trash we generate from surplus or broken electronic devices. Electronics are full of valuable materials, many of which can be recovered and reused at the end of a device's life. However, electronics also contain various toxic and hazardous chemicals that can be released into the environment and cause damage if we don't dispose of them properly. Electronics recycling is the process of recovering materials from old devices to use in new products. Properly recycling e-waste allows us to save valuable materials, conserve natural resources, reduce energy that goes into the production of electronic devices, conserve landfill space, and reduce pollution. One type of e-waste that you'll encounter frequently are batteries. Alkaline and lithium batteries are trash. The only recoverable component of alkaline batteries is the thin metal coating, which is expensive to strip and recycle. Rechargeable batteries such as lithium ion, nickel cadmium, and lead acid are going to be your best choice. Though they are more expensive up front, they'll last 200 times as long as regular batteries and can be recycled. While households in Wisconsin aren't required to recycle batteries, non-alkaline batteries pose a risk to waste collectors and the environment. For this reason, don't throw them out all at once. If these batteries are incinerated or sent to the landfill, the heavy metals in them will be released into the environment. Similarly, avoid placing non-alkaline batteries and other electronics in your curbside recycling cart or bin. These items may start a fire if they're damaged by recycling truck equipment or facilities equipment. To reduce fire risk, you can tape the ends of the batteries with packing tape and store them in a leak-proof plastic bucket. Composting your food waste is a great way to divert organic materials from being sent to the landfill. There are several options when it comes to composting your own food waste. If you live in an apartment or don't have access to land, you can keep your food scraps in a well-sealed plastic or styrofoam bin in your home. You can also store your food scraps in the freezer. This will slow the rate of decomposition and prevent from attracting flies or unwanted odors. Choose a plastic or glass container that will fit inside your freezer. You can line it with newspaper or a paper bag to make it easier to discard your scraps. Cutting up your food scraps before putting them in the freezer or your compost bin will allow for a more even distribution of air and moisture. If you do have access to land, springtime is a great time of year to start a compost pile outside. Otherwise, once quarantine ends, other options include bringing your food scraps to a nearby community garden or paying a private food waste collection service to pick up your food waste. If you opt to work with a private collection service to collect your food scraps, be sure to check what their guidelines are, as they may differ slightly from the ones listed here. Here are some things that can go into your home compost. All food scraps except for dairy and meat products can be kept in your compost. Coffee grounds and paper filters, tea bags, plants, and soil are also okay. Any food-contaminated paper products, such as paper coffee cups, napkins, and paper towels, can also go into your compost. Here's some things you should avoid putting in your home compost. Any oily or greasy food scraps should be put in the trash, as these products will affect the moisture of your compost. Any non-organic materials, such as plastics, metals, oils, etc., should not be going in your compost. Personal hygiene products, such as shampoo, deodorant, toothpaste, soap, and hand sanitizer, also should not be going in your compost. Bones and eggshells can be composted over time. However, it does take very long for this to happen, so they can be thrown away. It's important to note that composting on UW-Madison's campus looks different from your home compost. The key differences are these. Dairy and meat products, as well as oil and greasy food scraps that usually shouldn't go in your home compost, are okay to go into the campus compost stream. This is because our compost is taken to an anaerobic biodigester. Another key difference is that pits, along with bones and eggshells, are not accepted in the campus compost stream. When ground up, these hard materials act like sandpaper in the anaerobic biodigester system and can damage the pipes.
You've come to the end of our podcast. Thank you for listening, and be sure to follow @SustainUW to find more Earth Day events this week. Thank you to freesounds.org for the sounds that were used in this show.